Did you know how to edit before doing content? Or did you have to learn, like, when you're like, "Okay, I'm gonna be a content creator," and then you learned?
Oh, yeah, I had no idea. I
Really?
had no I had no background in, I had no background in video editing,
Dude,
in
it's cold in here.
it is a little bit cold in here. It's a little bit
Should've
nippy.
wore pants.
Yeah, bro, you came in with the 4 inchers.
I know, dude. Gotta show the thighs off.
Thoughts for the guys.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're all good. No, I had no background of anything other than I had messed around in, like, a broadcast journalism class in high school, but other than that, no formal video editing or anything. Like, when I first started creating content, it was just podcast stuff, so I was editing everything on iMovie, and
It's so inefficient.
so inefficient, bro, but I had no idea what I was
Yeah.
doing. I had a laptop that could barely, like, do anything. It was, like, the lowest tier Mac that you could get, and so I was editing all the conversations on, iMovie. I would, like, splice them up as I would go along and edit.
Can you do, like, layers on iMovie? I remember that was, like, one of the biggest things I had to 'cause that's how I first started.
Dude,
And I remember you
I had
couldn't,
no
like,
idea what I was doing.
stack. You couldn't put, like, text and video and music, at least at the time, it
Dude,
was,
I mean,
like, so
what I
terrible.
was doing is I was exporting the clips from iMovie to my phone, and then I would edit them in InShot and put, like dude, I was so stupid that I was transcribing entire clips myself. Like,
Like, the captions
like, the
and
captions of what somebody was saying. So, it would
yeah.
take me, like, 3 hours to make a post, and I would get, like, 27 views.
Dude, I used to do that too, like, type out like, listen to, like, 5 seconds, like, 1
Yeah.
second
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah,
one sentence, and then type it
and
out.
then type it out.
Yeah.
I
So,
was looking at it now,
thank
I'm
goodness
like
for computers.
and then I just, like this morning, I was editing, like so I don't fully edit the podcast, but, like, I go through and I, like, make timestamps to give to the
Mm.
editor, and I write the show notes, and I still do it still takes me a couple hours to do everything on that front, but, like, today I was in Premiere Pro, and I transcribed the entire hour-long conversation in 6 minutes,
Yeah.
you know, or I was like, "Damn it."
Yeah, dude. Have you messed with the AI? We were just kinda talking about it, but the what is it called? Autopod, I think. Have you seen that one?
No, I have
It's
not.
crazy. I think the guy that edits my stuff uses that. I played around with it myself, but it will literally chop up a whole like, however long your episode is, 3 hours, 2
Yeah.
hours, whatever, in, like, 10 seconds. It'll
What?
cut between the speakers, it'll, like, auto do the
Oh,
audio so it
interesting.
sounds good. It's crazy.
Interesting. I'll have to check if my editor uses that, but
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, when I learned about that, it was almost hard to justify still paying somebody to do the podcast because 'cause
Yeah.
I'm like, "Dude, I could just have this Autopod thing do it." But he does, like, the clips and it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Like and you can always tell when there's a human touch to it.
100%. Well, you started as a,
Are
like,
we going?
kinda yeah, we're going.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going. We're going.
Nice.
We'll
Is
keep
this
this
for
in.
me?
That is for you. That is
Nice.
for you.
Okay.
Um, you started your career as a creator more on the back end side of things, right? Like, you
Yeah.
were documenting, you were creating, but you weren't doing it in, like, a personal brand sense, right?
Yeah, not for me.
Not for
It was
you.
always for somebody else. Because I started with well, I guess it kinda started with me. I got one of the first GoPros in
Mm,
high school. I was, like, 14. It was, like, I think it was the GoPro Hero 3. Didn't have a screen on it, didn't even know what you were recording. You could just push record and point it at stuff, basically. And then that's where I learned how to use iMovie, and it was just the simplest edits. It was just, like, clips cut together with music underneath it. It was so simple. But I thought it was so fun to, like, document stuff and be able to go do something cool with my friends and be like, "Okay, let's make a skateboarding video or something," and then we would just do dumb stuff on camera, put it to music, and be like, "Oh, sick," and I'd upload it to YouTube. I had, like, 1 subscriber, 2 subscribers, and I would get no views or anything, but it was just so fun to, like, document those things and create, like or, like, capture these memories, basically, and then, I did that kinda off and on just on the side, like, never made money with it or anything, and then all through high school, kept doing that, and I did a what was it? It's called, like, photo and video production or something like that in high school, and, like, you learned how to use Final Cut Pro, so, like, a professional editing software, the way to do, like, narrative films, so, like, short films and learn how to shoot talking heads, like, interviews and stuff, and it was always just for fun, like, just for passion, and my parents wanted me to go to law school and, like, go that whole route just because it seemed like a good way to make money and, like, a good
mm.
path for a career, but I was never interested in that really, but I didn't know what else I wanted to do, so I was like, "Okay, let's just stick to that," and then just kept doing this photo stuff on the side, video, on the side, and then in 2018 when Bree and I moved to Hawaii, we're like, "What if we, start, like, a vlog?" And we just 'cause we had 9 months in Hawaii, and we wanted to maximize it, and so we're like, "What if we use a vlog every week to get us out of the house to go do stuff?" It's like an incentive to make sure we're actually exploring and, like, utilizing our time here, and so we posted a vlog every week. They're so bad. Like, trying to talk on camera was so awkward. Like, we almost debated quitting because the first couple episodes, like, we just couldn't seem natural talking on camera because it is an unnatural thing to do, talking to a camera as if it's a person. It's just, like, it's very unnatural. So, we kept doing that, kinda forced our way through it, and then through that, like, just posting every week, like, all my friends and family in Wyoming would see it and be like, "Hey, when you get back to Wyoming, like, do you wanna shoot a little promotion for my business? Like, I'm getting married next summer. Can you come and, like, film my wedding or something?" 'Cause I wasn't that good at it at the time, but, like, not many other people in Wyoming especially
Mm.
could shoot video and edit video and stuff, and so, when we got back to Wyoming, started doing some more kind of freelance work, still studying, uh, political science with the intention to go to law school and stuff, and, um, I could see that you actually could make money with photo and video editing and production and stuff, and so after I graduated from, college, when I'd finished my undergrad, and I was like, "Yeah, screw law school, I'll just try and pursue this thing." Even though I might make less money or there's less opportunity with it, it's like, it's not as, proven of a path as law school, um and so I just started doing, like, freelance stuff, like, a lot of cold emailing, cold calling to, like, realtors, asking friends if they had, like, a business or if their parents had a business or something to see if they needed some kind of promotional video, so did the whole, like, freelance business side of things for a while, and it was fun, and I learned a ton, like, I did every single kind of project you could think of, like, real estate, weddings, like, construction company promo videos, and, like, pet sitting business promo videos, like, everything you can think of, but it wasn't like the passion of it for me was the, like, actual shooting and editing and that kinda stuff, I loved that, but the actual, like, content of it, I was like, this isn't that exciting," and then this is a long story, but, after doing that for a couple years, I had a friend who was running, it's called the Grand Slam of ultra running, and it's 400-mile races in the same year, and I was like, "Dude, let's film this." Like, we had no way to like, fund it basically other than ourselves, so I was like, "Okay, I'll fly out, I'll pay for myself to fly out to all these races, film these 400-mile races, and we'll put together, like, a documentary, essentially," and, did that, and then during one of those races in Leadville, I met the BPN team. At the time, I was a huge fan of BPN, and their whole team was out there, and I introduced myself, and I was like, "Hey, I'm out here filming a friend, just doing, like, this passion project, shooting this documentary," and I kinda stayed in touch with them for a couple months, and then they hit me up and like, "Hey, we're hiring for a videographer. You wanna come out to Texas, come work with us?" I was like, "Shoot, why not? Let's do it." So did that for, like, 8 months, worked for BPN, did, like, Nick Bear's content, all of his YouTube, his Instagram, learned a lot about how to build up a personal brand, like, what it takes to be a content creator, essentially, and after about 8 months of that, I was like, "Okay, I think I've gathered enough information here that I can just do this on my own." And I've always had more of the entrepreneurial side, and I've never done that well as, like, an employee 'cause I just for whatever reason, the way my brain works, I've always wanted to be on my own and just have
Mhm.
that freedom that comes with entrepreneurship. And so, left there, and basically right after I left, I just started going really hard on personal content, using all these skills that I developed over the last couple of years from freelance and all these different editing projects and photo and video projects, and putting that towards my own brand now. So spent like I guess from when I was 14 till 22, 23 something, so almost 10 years of building up all these skills on the side to then just applying it to my own situation, which was cool. So yeah, very long story there, but that's how we got here now.
No, I appreciate the backstory on that, and it's just so interesting to see how everything has come full circle for you in all of these things that you were just dabbling in were just you acquiring new skills and
Right.
new tools that you were able to add to your tool belt. Was there any point where you realized that all of that stuff that you were doing was just a means to an end and a beginning into the new chapter of life that you're in right
Mm,
now?
it's a good question. I never thought of it that way. No, because like, I always thought it'd be cool to be able to do photo and video, like, as a career, and I thought it'd be even cooler to be able to do it for myself, but it always seemed so unattainable or, like, so impossible because I've just never it was probably a confidence thing. I never felt like I had enough confidence in myself to, like, be the face of a personal brand or the face of, like, some social media channel or something. I don't know why, but I just never had that confidence, and I think that's probably what it came down to, and so I never really thought it was a possibility until I went and worked at BPN, and I met, like, Cam Haines there, I met Chad Wright, I met all these, like, really high level people, Tim Kennedy, obviously working with Nick, like, they're really high people, and they're at the end of the day, they're all just content creators, really. That's how most people know those guys, and I just learned that, like, they're just regular people. They're just like you and me. And if they can do it, then I can do it. And so that gave me a ton of confidence of just being around people that are doing what I wanna do and understanding, like, it's within reach if it's something you really wanna do, you'll figure out a way to do it. Um, so did that answer your question?
That did answer my question. So, to kinda consolidate all that, n no, but as you got to a point, like, you just it kinda peeled back layers and, like, kept giving you signs of, like, "Okay, what do I really want to do is build my own thing." That's
Right.
what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I've always been into, like, athletics, like, I played sports growing up, played hockey, was the, like, captain of the high school team for 4 years, but was never good enough to, like, go play
I did
college.
not know you were a hockey guy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I played for, like, 20 years, I think.
Did you
I
really?
started when I was 2 and a half, like, as soon as I started walking, my parents got me into hockey, which is cool. So that was, like, my main sport. Played 2 years, like, club level in college. Like, it was obviously just like every kid, their dream to go play pro sports, but I was never good enough or never at least put in the time, like, outside of regular practice to actually get better.
Did you have a favorite team? Because I know there's no there's no team out there
Yeah.
in Wyoming.
No, there's no pro sports in Wyoming. Most people are just, like, Colorado fans because that's the closest, state or the closest city with pro sports team, so the Avalanche
Yeah.
are my favorite team. Yeah, we'd go down to Denver, like, several times a year and go watch Avalanche games and stuff, but, yeah, hockey was the main sport, and that dude, hockey taught me so much. It's such a gritty sport, like, you just learn how to just, like, push through anything because it's, like, a very physically demanding sport, obviously, um, and the way hockey like, the way the game is set up is you have basically 45-second shifts. So, like, you go out, balls to the wall as hard as you can for 45 seconds, and then you go sub out for somebody else, sit on the bench for, like, 2, 3 minutes, and you go again, and it's just, like, every 45 or every couple of minutes, you have this 45-second window to just go as hard as you can, and then right after that, you gotta get off, and you gotta go rest. So it teaches you so much, and then also the teamwork aspect. Uh, like any team sport, I think teaches you that, but there's such a camaraderie with hockey that I didn't experience as much, in other sports. That something about hockey, I don't know what it is. It's just like it's like the boys and like the team aspect is so central to the game. And so that was cool and just like being able to or having to show up to practice on time and have respect for your coaches and your teammates. It's just long story short, but hockey just taught me so much that I still use today, which is cool. But I don't remember what the original question was.
Yeah,
I just
doesn't
rambling.
it doesn't matter. We're just throwing out.
Um, yeah. Oh, athletics. Athletics were a central part of my childhood, and I always thought that it'd be cool to be able to do something with that, but I never felt like I was good enough to, like, be a professional athlete or
Mhm.
anything like that, and so that's where now I'm still not a professional athlete, but I basically just run and lift, and then through the content, that's what, like, what provides the value, instead of, like, take, I don't know, Kipchoge, for example, like, he just has to run fast, and, like, that's the value he provides is, like, inspiration, and he setting human limits and, um, showing people what's possible, but I think as somebody who can't do that, like, that's where content can come in, and you can use content or I can use content, uh, as, like, a way to help people out, if that makes sense? I don't know.
Yeah, you're using your platform for good. You're
Right.
using your platform to elevate the people's human experience and bring people together. Like I see what you do with the run clubs and when you were at the Boston Marathon and doing the shakeout runs and just you're one of the like premier people that people know like in the running content creating space. You know, it was like you and Matt
And
and
you.
yeah, well, yeah, I was TV. I need to. I'll make my return eventually. Um,
I'd still consider you in that club.
yeah, I'll tell you, man. That's like the one thing that I've missed the most about running since having like the thing happen with my heart is I've just missed like being around people
Yeah.
and it's not even the running, you know, it is the community, it's the camaraderie, it's the shared suffering, it's the sweat equity, it's going out and, like, you know that other people are gonna be out there on a Saturday morning, and so you're gonna go and you're gonna push through something hard, you're gonna do it with them, but one of my favorite things to do was, like, go and, like, get lunch or get breakfast with somebody after, and then
Right.
go, like, hit the sauna and do some cold plunges and, like, just everything that comes along with that, and when it's taken away from you, like, it's not just the actual running, it's, like, everything that goes along with it, and when I moved to Austin, it was that was, like, how I socialized was
Yeah.
through fitness, was through running and through all those things and going and being able to explore different parts of the country and seeing these beautiful landscapes and just pushing yourself to past your perceived limits. So, like, that's what I've missed the most about it, but I know that it's just, like, a season of life that I'll be back to, but I don't know if I ever want to be, like, known as, like, "Oh, like, you're that running guy on
Right.
Instagram." You know, I feel like I have more to offer and more to give in terms of, like, experiences, insight, so, like, that's just me, and I think it's forced me to pivot a lot in and we've talked about this in your
Yeah.
podcast, but it's forced me to pivot a lot, but to a point where, you know, I'm happy with the way that things have turned out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Like, I totally agree. I don't wanna be, "Oh, Jeremy Miller, that running guy." I think maybe initially, like, I think it's definitely helpful to have a niche
For
when you're
sure.
trying to start out.
Totally.
Because I mean, if you think about, anything, it's like in human history, people usually are associated with, like, the craft that they do. It's like, "Oh, that's Fred that guy chops up all the meat for the community," or, "He's the butcher," or, like, you've got the carpenter Dale down the street or whatever. It's like people are usually associated with whatever craft they have,
Right.
and so I think if I guess this could be advice for anybody who's trying to start a personal brand or creating content or anything is like, you don't have to. I think it helps though, but finding some kind of specialty, um, or some niche that you can lean into that people can associate with you with, and I think that's where I noticed the biggest difference with my content and with the
Mhm.
personal brand was like, because I'd post like I used to post like Bree and I going to the store or like we'd go to the beach or like just very random things that didn't really have any true purpose. And then once I started honing in on like running and fitness stuff, that's where people started following and paying more attention because it's
Mm.
like, oh, if I want to learn about running and fitness, I'll follow this guy.
Right.
If I want some inspiration for running and fitness, I'll follow this guy. And they tell their friends like, oh, this guy, he has all this cool running content. And then
Mhm.
I think initially that probably helps to have that niche, but then as you're trying to grow, I think making sure you're as diversified as possible
Mhm.
and not like pigeonholing yourself into this one specific thing because then if something happens like with you, it's like if you literally can't run, if you get injured or you get sick of running, you don't want to run anymore, then you're not stuck in that same industry. You can use like Dom or I can use Jeremy as the person to continue growing and like continue to have people following along and building a community and stuff. But yeah, like my strength coach Pete Rubish, he used to be like an elite.
Dude, that guy's a
He's a savage, dude.
I went down a rabbit hole of his
He's
videos.
nuts, man. He's such a good dude. Like the one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Which if you just like looked at him, you'd be like, "Oh, that guy looks like a big mean
Mhm.
meathead." His neck is like bigger than my thighs, but he's huge.
It's a
But
large human.
yeah, he was an elite powerlifter for like 9 years or something, and that's like what he was known for. He built his whole YouTube, his Instagram, everything off of this being an elite powerlifter, and then he was on steroids and all this stuff. That's why he's so huge and strong. And then he got off of steroids for health purposes, so he couldn't lift as heavy, so he wasn't as elite anymore. And then people slowly stopped caring because he's like, "Oh, Pete's that big lifting guy, but he's not really lifting anymore, so I'll follow somebody else."
Mm.
So that's, it's tough to grow because you gotta have some kinda niche, I think, but also not pigeonholing yourself to that specific thing.
Hypothetically, if you weren't able to run
Mm,
anymore, do you have any idea where you would pivot to in terms of content?
dude. I was actually thinking about this driving over here because I was thinking about you, like, I was like, "Dude, I just couldn't imagine building this whole brand around fitness and running, and then if I was unable to run or, work out for whatever reason, like, I don't know, what would I do?" And I really I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of passions and stuff, like, I love creating content. Maybe I would go into, like, consulting and teaching people how to create content and build up personal brands, um, or maybe, I mean, Switchback's obviously a huge thing, like, I feel like I could still run and promote Switchback and do that kinda stuff, not run Switchback, you know what I mean? Operate Switchback,
Nice pun.
yeah. Still build that up, I don't know, there's so many things I love doing, I love reading and, like, philosophy, that kinda stuff, so maybe something with that, but I don't know, running and fitness is such a huge part of, like, my daily routine
Mhm.
that if that got taken away, even outside of the content, I would go crazy just because it's such a, like, pillar of my life and my mental health and my physical fitness that if I couldn't run or couldn't lift, then, I think content would be, like, the last thing I'd worry about at that
Mm.
point because it's such a pivotal role in, like, just my daily life in general, so I don't know what I would do.
Yeah.
Long story short,
Yeah,
long
but
answer.
also, like, content is essentially, like, your means of,
Right,
like, income. Like, it is essentially, like, your job, though, too. It's, like, the driver
right.
for everything else. So,
I feel like there's so many ways to make money. Content's
there
one of
is.
them, and, right, for me right now, it's definitely the main thing, but I think I'd be able to, like, I mean, I'm up until a year ago, I figured out other ways to make money
Yeah.
without content necessarily or without, like, being the face of the content, so I think there's I don't know, that's a good point, but I feel like I'd be able to figure something else out. It
Mhm.
wouldn't be as enjoyable because I love content. I mean,
Right.
everything has led me to the point of being able to do content full time because that's what I love the most.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know.
Do you still coach?
Yeah, dude, I was up to like 65 one-on-one people.
Bro, I remember.
It was way too much.
I remember you and I talking, you're like, "Bro, this is insane."
Dude, I would at all times I'd have like 47 unread text messages just waiting to be replied to. And it's hard because I want to help all these people and I mean I wish I could coach a million people, but like that's obviously not realistic. So, I cut back to like 20-ish people. I feel like somewhere between 10 to 20 is like a pretty good number. I'd like to get it down to like 5 to 10 to be
Mm.
honest, because it's again, I love coaching people, but I also love content. I also wanna grow Switchback, like, there's so many different things that I wanna do, and time is so limited, so, I don't know. I've considered, like, going like, NVDM route, like
Mm.
what Natasha's done, and, like, building, like, a big kind of tiered coaching business, but I feel like for me at least, there's, like, other bigger opportunities to have an impact on people.
Yeah, and Natasha is, like, she's a coach.
Yeah.
Like, she loves coaching. She loves running that business. Like, you don't you enjoy coaching, but it sounds like you don't love coaching, but you love creating content.
Yeah. Well, I'd say I love coaching. It's because it's so gratifying, like,
Mm.
helping somebody, like, say they've never run a marathon, and then they run their first marathon. Like, I just had a girl did the Dallas Marathon, she never run a marathon, and she was, like, crying at the finish line because she was just able to complete it, and it's like, that stuff is so cool. It's very fulfilling, but
Mhm.
again, time is so limited that, like, I can't coach well more than, like, 20 people and do it good and, like, give my full self to each person, so it's just a very limiting thing, I
Mm.
find. And again, coaching is not my one passion, like, I have several other things I wanna do. So somebody like Natasha is great because it seems like that's what her thing is, like, she just loves coaching, and she doesn't wanna do anything else. I love coaching, but it's not the only thing I wanna do, so just balancing everything.
So what are some of those other things you wanna do? I mean, you've mentioned Switchback
Yeah.
is kind of like, and just outside looking in, that's kind of like the most scalable thing
Right.
that you have in your arsenal right now, but So when you say, like, other things I wanna do, is that it? Is there other things?
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, I would spend 80% of my time building Switchback, 10% of my time doing, like content deals and brand deals and stuff, and then the other 10%, coaching. So I wanna do all 3 to some extent, but Switchback would be kind of the main focus, and we're just so set on, like, the first year not paying ourselves. So, until we like, start actually paying ourselves, it just doesn't make sense to, like, spend, like, that percentage of time on it because the return right now isn't there, which is a really hard thing because trying to build a business where you're not seeing any direct return is really challenging. Um, but we know that if we spend the first year just pumping it all back into the business, it'll grow so much faster. And I feel fortunate that Brock and I are both in positions where we have like a main thing that we can rely on for income, and we don't have to rely on Switchback for income right now. So, like through content and coaching, I can keep doing that until we can get Switchback up to the point where we can pay ourselves. And then I'll pull back on the content a little bit, or at least like the brand deals and stuff like that. I'll still probably post every day because I just love editing and shooting content. But yeah, pull back on those other two things and then spend more time on Switchback. Just because yes, Switchback is more scalable from like a monetary standpoint and like a business standpoint, but also I feel like that's where we could have the most impact because of its scalability. Like if we can provide high quality fuel, like right now we just have electrolytes, but adding in other types of fuel and supplements and things that people can use in training to help hit their goals, whether it's running or lifting, whatever event they're doing. And also, like, we want to get into providing, I don't know, like different training plans and like community aspects and in person events. And there's so much more potential with it. Whereas with me coaching one on one people, it's like I'm limited to my time and that's so finite. Whereas with a business like that, it's really infinite. So,
Same thing with brand deals
yeah.
though, because you're kind of just you're essentially an employee for that company.
Exactly. You're like, I say ambassadors are, some people might not like this. Ambassadors are just like glorified sales reps,
Yeah.
really. It's like a fancy term for just a sales rep. And instead of being on a salary for a company, you're just paid in product or paid in commission, which is what most sales rep make anyways. So, and I mean, I've been an ambassador for several companies and like I'm currently an affiliate or an ambassador for several companies, but that's what it is. It's just kind of a fancy term for that. Um, and I mean, there are benefits to doing that as opposed to, like, being an actual sales rep because you have more flexibility. Like, you can like, I work for, like, 6 different companies essentially helping promote their products, and it's not like I just do it because it's money, obviously. It's like those are products I actually use.
Right.
So that's a win-win, but, it's not something I wanna do forever. And I mean, some people are fine with just, like, like, being an affiliate or being an ambassador for a company or an athlete, and they don't really have any ambitions to do their own thing, which is fine. It's definitely a lot more stressful to do your own thing, to run your own company. Uh, but again, I think there's more upside potential to it. So,
Do you remember your first brand deal?
hmm. Oh, this is probably it was actually in Hawaii when we were doing the vlogs and stuff. First one I remember was, I was really into photography, like, I don't know if you know, like, Jay Alvarez or, like, Sam Colder or any of those guys, they're, like, travel photographers. They were
Mhm.
really big on Instagram back in, like, 2017, 2018. But they excuse me, they had these, like, it was like a glass ball. It was like this glass sphere, and you would just, like, place it in random locations and take photos of it, and it would, like, make this cool effect with your camera. And I got one of these free glass balls. So I was like, "This is sick. I got a free product from this company, and they're gonna send it to me, and I don't have to pay for it." So that was cool. But, I didn't such a dumb that place probably isn't in business anymore. But, um, I did a lot of clothing stuff. I feel like there's so many clothing companies out there,
Lots of clothing
and
out there.
clothing is so cheap. It's like for a company to send you a shirt and a pair of shorts or something costs them like 20 bucks. And if they get some content out of it in exchange, like that's a no-brainer. So, I did a lot of clothing things. That's probably the bulk of it for the first couple of years. Like I had so many
Hmm.
just excess clothes for whatever reason. So, yeah, the first like big brand deal was or like where I got paid like a decent amount
Yeah.
was actually Forces, a
Hmm.
clothing company, of course. They paid me like 500 bucks or something, like on a monthly basis to like post a couple times a month. I was like, "Damn, they're gonna pay me and send me free clothes?" It was so cool.
It's a wild it's when you're first starting out, it is, like, such a wild
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
You're like, "I'm gonna get more than $500 in clothes,
yeah,
and I'm gonna get $500.
yeah.
This is wild."
Free products are cool, but you'll quickly realize that, like, bunch of free clothes or free products aren't
Yeah,
gonna pay your bills.
yeah. I
Like
don't even do them anymore.
yeah,
I don't do any, like, product for
no,
posting.
no. There's one company that hit me up a couple weeks ago to send me an e-bike, and it was,
Ooh.
like, 3 grand, and I really need a good e-bike for filming, so I was like, "Should I do
Mm.
this?" But
I
I
see
considered it.
see there yes, like, that is one that I would take. I'll say I did one
Yeah.
with 8 Sleep a couple months ago.
What is that?
8 Sleep is it's really dope. It's a mattress where it's, like, controlled on your phone, and so you can control the temperature, like, it plugs in on the side and
Mm.
it can cool it or it can warm it, and, like, if
Oh, is it like a chili sleep pad?
it's like a chili sleep
I've got
pad.
one of those.
Yeah, so you can but, like, you can also well, the coolest thing is, like, you can gradually change it overnight, so you can set it whereas, like, oh, at, like, after a couple hours, it, like, slightly warms up, and then so by the time you're, like, waking up, it can wake you up with, like, the warmth,
Oh, that's cool.
and, like, it has a vibrating alarm, so and
Oh.
it also tracks, like, your HRV, and all this kinda stuff, so it's very cool, I definitely I mean, it's like a $2,500 mattress pad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sick, but I was like for me, I was like, "Yeah." I was like, I'll if you're gonna send me
Yeah.
one, like, yeah, I'll create one for you."
Yeah, yeah, or if it was like a cold plunge,
Right.
something, like, expensive that
Yeah.
I would be considering buying myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, like, kind of like, litmus test I use for myself when it comes to working with brands is, like, is this something I would actually spend my own money on to
Mm.
use? And if the answer is no, then I have to pass on it, even if they like, I've been offered stuff where the pay is just stupid. It's, like, several thousand dollars, and it's, like, kinda be dumb to pass it up, but if it's not a product or a brand that I would align with or
Mm.
genuinely use or genuinely spend my own money on, then
Totally.
it's, like, morally, I feel like I have to say no to those.
Dude, that's the hardest thing is just being intentional about the products and the brands that you're working with. I said no to 2, like, of the bigger deals that have ever come across me because I looked at the ingredients and I was like, this is I don't agree with these,
Yeah.
and it doesn't align with the kind of content that I create and the things that I promote. And if it's not something for me, I'm like, if it's not something that I would use for the rest of my life, I'm not going to use it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been hit up by some, like, alcohol companies.
Mm,
Like, alcohol companies have stupid money.
yeah, they do.
And so they're always willing to pay so much, but I'm like, "I don't drink at all, and
Yeah,
I don't really wanna promote drinking or promote
right.
an unhealthy habit." I mean,
Hmm.
people do whatever they want, but it just doesn't align, so it's like passing up a good chunk of change for, like, I don't know, on standing up for what you believe in, I
Yeah.
guess? So, it's a hard thing to balance, but yeah, I don't know. So, yeah.
No, I respect it. Just because you're putting the relationship that you have with your audience and your community
Right.
over, a monetary value.
Oh, and people like, your audience will quickly know if it's not genuine.
Oh, dude, 100%.
Yeah, if it's like there's been a few companies, I think it's like running shoe companies or something, it's hit me up and they're like, "Can you wear these when you work out?" And I'm like, "I don't wear those when I work out." They're like, "Well, we'll pay you this much." And I'm like, "No." 1, 'cause I wouldn't use it genuinely, and then 2, like, everybody that sees my content knows I don't wear these specific things when I'm doing this, or I don't use this regularly. So it's like, it would just come across so disingenuous, and they're not gonna get any sales for the brand. People would be mad at me because they know that I'm just doing shit for money, and then, yeah, I like the stuff when it aligns and it's so much more organic.
Yeah,
Obviously, it makes way more sense.
absolutely. I want to move into performance side of
Also,
things a little bit.
before
Yeah,
you
yeah,
say
yeah.
that, how do you do these podcasts without notes? I've always been so impressed by that.
So I find that if I have them there, it's going to distract me.
Mm,
And I'm going to feel like I need to like hit all these little boxes, these little checks and whatnot. But for me, I know that this moment right here, like this is profound. Like you and I completely present. And if I'm sitting here with notes, then I'm not going to be fully present with you.
yeah.
And I've just found that the flow of the conversation is so much more organic if I can just tune into what the other person is saying and not have any like expectations, just really lean into my own curiosity of what's genuinely going on within the present moment. Because if I'm constantly feeling like I have to
Yeah.
bounce back and forth from thing to thing to thing to thing, and then I don't get to some things, like I'm gonna get frustrated during it or I'm like after it. And while you're talking, I've had this happen before where you might be talking and I might be completely absent-minded because I'm just trying to think of I'm already focused on the next question that I'm gonna ask, or
Mhm.
I'm trying to figure out the next question that I'm gonna ask, rather than just surrendering to the present moment, listening to what you're saying, and then just, "Hey, what am I actually curious about hearing?" Like, we're about to
Right.
get into, like, endurance stuff, like, I'm genuinely curious about how you took your marathon time down to a 2:44, how I've literally haven't seen you get any injuries, like, over the past several months, like,
Steroids.
steroids. I was gonna dive into that. What you say to all the Jeremy Millers on Juice,
Dude.
people. I found a Reddit thread
Yeah.
that was completely dedicated to, like, people debating whether
Dude.
or not you're on steroids.
I can't
Um,
believe that.
but so to kinda wrap up what you said there is, 1, I've been doing this for almost 4
Yeah.
years, so I've just built up, like, that level of confidence, and what I have found extremely beneficial is I didn't make this up myself, I heard it somewhere and I put it to practice and it worked, was I'll do a bunch of research, I'll write down questions that I have for the person, and then I'll delete all of them
Mm,
right before like an hour before the conversation,
okay.
so that, like, I've already kind of, like, prepped my brain for what I wanna talk about or what I wanna discuss, um, but then I just throw it out the window,
I like that.
so
Dude, I'm kind of in the middle somewhere. When I first started, it was way too scripted to,
I
like,
remember I was episode 2.
so bad, so bad. Yeah, it's been almost a year, so I feel like I've come a long way.
Dude,
I don't know.
I from as a listener to your podcast, you ask incredible questions, and even just recording with you a couple weeks ago, like, you asked some very deep, introspective questions that I was not expecting.
I like that.
Yeah,
That's what it's all about.
so you're doing well.
Yeah, I kinda am, again, in the middle, in the middle ground of that, where, like, I like doing some prep work, like, looking through your socials, like, seeing what you've been doing lately, that kinda thing, having a good list of questions, and then I'll have the questions, but I don't look at them unless I have to. Like, I have
Mhm.
it there, and then I like to do basically what we've been doing now, and then if I feel like the conversation is getting to, like, kind of a dead end, then I'll reference a question, and then go on. So, I wanna get to the point where it's, like, no notes at all and just have it internally. But 100% to your point of, like, when you have questions, it's so, like, interviewy and it feels so, like, not organic.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, just making it conversational and, like, less interview, more conversation, I think is the biggest thing with these. And it's just the style of podcast too. Like, some people might, I guess, like the more interview style where it feels like a newscast or something, but
Yeah. Well, here
this is
here
way better, I think.
here's the thing too is ultimately on this podcast, I want to have the Andrew Hubermans, the Peter Attias, the Rhonda Patricks, the Paul Saladinos. Like, I want those people on the podcast. And if I was going into, or not if I, like, when I go into interviews with those people, I'm going to have questions that I want to ask.
Yeah.
And I might be sitting here with an iPad or with my laptop or with a note sheet of things that I like generally am curious about and I don't want to let slip by. But I don't know, like if I felt like I needed to come to like a podcast with a note sheet, then I would. But like you're my boy and I know what I wanted to talk to you
Yeah.
about and I was also just gonna I went into this like, hey, we're just gonna take this wherever it goes. And so if it's somebody like that, maybe I'll have notes, but you know.
Yeah. What if I said I want to talk about quantum physics nutrients? What would you say to that? I can't believe that. Dude, did you delete that post?
I did delete the
I was trying
post.
to look for it because
I
the
did
comments were very entertaining.
I did delete the post. It's still up on TikTok and YouTube.
Oh my god.
Um,
Dude, people are so mean.
dude, I got so much hate for that.
I don't know why you got
Lane Norton
I
attacked
saw
me.
that.
Lane
I don't
Norton
know why
attacked me.
you're not the one saying
That's
it.
what I said.
You
And
just were presenting it.
so I mean, the more I thought about it, and I was like, dude, and to be honest with you, like I'm still like low key, like I don't know either way. Like it is bizarre. It is bizarre, like, what he's talking about, but, like, just having the conversation with him, like, the way that he, like, presented it, it was like, "Okay," like and it's more of like from in my head, it was like, "If this can be proven, that would be really cool." But I wasn't just gonna be like, "Dude, you're off your rocker." Like, no,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna do that. But I thought it was an interesting I thought it was gonna make an interesting post. I did not think people were gonna
it
freak
definitely made it
out.
interesting.
It was interesting, but then I thought about it and I was like, somebody who may have like an eating disorder or like a poor relationship with food, like they could take this the wrong way and it could be dangerous. So I decided I didn't take the podcast episode down. I just took the
Yeah.
clip down.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, anybody that's gonna criticize you for sharing somebody else's idea, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand that. Like,
Yeah.
you weren't the one saying it. If anything, criticize the guy saying it. So it made no sense to get mad at you. Like, I don't even know. Dude,
I got so many unfollows from that. Like I looked at that and I like for like 5 days it was like
oh
just
my
like
gosh.
net unfollow.
That's so dumb. Dude, I mean, that, like, goes against the basis of free speech and
Yeah.
just, like, the ideas of, like, humanity that most people would agree on is, like,
Yeah.
you should have the right to free speech and say whatever you want. Like,
Mhm.
obviously, you don't wanna be spreading misinformation, but I wouldn't consider that misinformation because it's, like it's a theory,
Yeah.
right? I mean, unless that guy's saying it's, like, scientific fact, maybe? I didn't listen to the episode, but
Yeah. I kind of prefaced it with the hook was like this might sound crazy, but like what if?
right.
So,
Yeah, I mean, who
oh,
is it? Was it Galileo that was the only one ever who the first guy that thought that we revolved around the sun instead of the opposite, and everybody thought he was crazy?
I think so.
Was it Galileo?
I don't know.
One of those old philosopher dudes.
Yeah.
Everybody thought that guy was nuts. I think he was, like, banished from his country or something probably because he's like, "No, everything revolves around the sun, not us." And then people thought he was nuts. It's like, I don't know.
Dude, I just heard I'm listening to Peter Attia's new book and he was talking about there was like a scientist back in like the 50s or 60s who had this theory. I don't remember what it was, but it was had something to do with like germs, and they put him in an insane. He literally died in an insane asylum because they thought his theories were so crazy. And then after he died, they like his theories were proved right. So it was like it's
I
just
get that most things go.
so nuts.
It's like conspiracy theories. Most of them end up being true at some point.
Yeah.
Like, dude, like Alex Jones, as crazy as that guy seems, a lot of what he says ends up being true,
Mm.
like later down the road. I don't want to get into conspiracy
Yeah.
theories, but it's
That's so good.
I think to just dismiss an idea because it sounds crazy is so stupid.
Yeah.
Especially just getting mad at you for it when you're not even the one saying it.
Yeah, I mean, I was just like, whatever, but I did decide to take it down just because I was like, a friend of mine had like presented a good point on like some again, like if somebody had an
Yeah.
eating disorder or whatnot, and I was like, okay, and like I was honestly just like, there's so much negativity and hate going on this page, on this post, and I was like, it's just gonna end this
Dude,
here.
I find you post everything to TikTok, right?
Yeah,
Do you ever
yeah.
read TikTok comments?
TikTok, people on TikTok are ruthless,
Dude, I find this is what I've learned. TikTok has the dumbest comments.
dumbest for sure.
Like people, I don't
You
know.
can hide behind like user 127
Yeah.
one.
They almost seem like bots. Like a lot of it seems like a bot is commenting because it is just like, or it's like a 6-year-old, somebody with low IQ or something. Because it's like, I don't know. I posted a video. Say I posted a video about like Zone 2 training. Or no. This is actually a real example. I posted a video about how to increase your VO2 max, and
That was a good post.
somebody commented on TikTok, should I be tired after this workout? I'm like, what? Yes, it's a workout. Like you should be tired, kind
Yeah.
of. I mean, like just stuff like that. Like, because I try to respond to questions and like if people have
Mm.
specific questions that like they're maybe I didn't make clear in the post or something. I like to go in and like respond to them to make things more clear. And so I read most of the comments, which might be a mistake, but like I come across these comments and I'm like, this is not even worth my time to respond to. Should you be tired after a workout? Just things like that. I'm like, it's interesting.
Yeah. YouTube comments are interesting too.
YouTube is the rudest.
YouTube's definitely the rudest. Again, you can kind of just hide behind like a face or like a no name account or whatnot.
Yeah. I feel like Instagram is the place where people are always saying, but it's what is the word? Like virtue signaling, where it's like,
Yeah.
"You're wrong, I'm right, here's
Yeah.
why." That Instagram seems to be the place for that.
There's a
Like
lot of
like your post is a perfect example of
yeah,
like
there's Instagram, there's a lot of debating going on.
yeah, yeah.
Everybody's an expert.
I think probably comes from 'cause Instagram's so similar to, like, Facebook, I feel like,
Mhm.
and people migrating from Facebook to Instagram. Like, Facebook is the place for debates and,
Yeah,
like, stupid arguments in the comments. I feel like Instagram is becoming like that.
it kind of is.
Yeah. It's wild out there. And it's such a small percentage of the actual comments. Like, it's like 5%
Yeah.
are negative. The other 95% are all positive.
Do you ever let that get to you? Do you ever let the negative stuff get to you?
Oh, dude, when I did the sub 5 mile and the 500-pound deadlift, there were so many comments about the mile not being legit. 'Cause people I had to explain it. I shouldn't even waste my time trying to explain it, but my watch picture I posted said 1.04 miles and, like, 5 minutes and 10 seconds because after I ran the mile, I didn't stop my watch immediately, and so that's where the .04 came in because I walked for a minute because I had just ran an all-out mile, and then it took me 12 seconds to pause my watch, and so people read it as I didn't run the mile in sub 5, like, it didn't even make sense. 'Cause they couldn't, like, put it together, and so I spent way too much time responding to people, trying to explain how GPS works, basically, and, yeah. So stuff like that where that one kinda got to me, I would say, 'cause I was just trying to explain something, and people just weren't getting it, and, then I realized, "Okay, let's not waste our time on this." But most of the time where it's like I posted a video about, sodium bicarb yesterday, and it's kind of a complex subject. And, people were like, "This is just baking soda. This is dangerous." As a medical somebody commented on YouTube, like, "As a medical professional, I would not advise this." I'm like, "This is, like, the top sports company in the world, sports fueling company, Morton, has this product. Like, you really think they don't have people holding them accountable? You think they're just putting out products that are, like, causing people health issues?" Like, just comments like that, I'd have like, it's easy to dismiss those, but it's hard because like, nobody would ever say those things to your face in person. Like, nobody'd ever come up and be like, "You're wrong and this is why." But they can hide behind the screen, so I have to remind myself of that, a lot of times. It's like, it's just so I think a lot of it's either, like, jealousy
Mm.
sometimes or, like, I don't even know where it comes
It
from,
comes
but
from I think it comes from a place of insecurity.
probably that.
Insecurity, jealousy, and just not being happy or content or fulfilled with their own lives. So I'm curious to hear your thought, but like for me, whenever I get those negative comments or emails or DMs or whatever else it is, whereas they don't, I mean, they still bother me and they always will. Like I'm not gonna say like, oh yeah, negative comments don't bother me because they do.
I don't think you'd be human if you said that
Right.
didn't bother you at
Exactly.
all.
But I feel like I've learned to shift and like come from a place of like compassion and empathy and like seeing like I wonder what this person is going through right now or like what is making them take the time out of their day to like leave this negative comment.
Yeah, yeah, and I think usually if it's something on like an accomplishment, like the sub 5 mile and the
Yeah.
500 pound deadlift, there are so many negative comments. I'm like, how many of these people have actually tried to deadlift 500 pounds and run a sub 5 mile? Probably none of them.
Probably
And how many
0.
people are even capable of that? Probably not many. Not to like
No,
brag,
gas yourself up, bro.
yeah,
Come on,
but
gas
it's
yourself
like,
up.
dude, I have to remind myself of that. Like a lot. My favorite is when I click on the person's account and they have like no posts, no followers. They're following like 2 people. It's like, "Oh, are you even a real person?"
Yeah, it's probably just a burner.
Dude, it
Somebody's burner.
probably is. It's so weird. Yeah. Again, I think it's the negative comments are like 5%, but they seem to be the loudest. It's like in
Mhm.
like politics, like most people, the vast majority of people are kind of somewhere in the middle, like moderate,
Mhm.
but you only ever hear about the ends of the spectrum, which
That's true.
it's the smallest percentage, but they're the loudest.
Yeah.
Same thing with the comments, I think. So, I don't know. They just can't read too much into it.
No, you gotta just let it go.
Yeah.
So 2023 was a big year for you
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, both from a athletic standpoint, from a business standpoint. I know you got engaged. You did a lot of things in 2023. Um, in particular, I want to touch on the athletic feats that you did, just because it just felt like you were always in some sort of prep,
Yeah.
and you were always crushing your goals. And for me, it was like I went into 2023 with a big goal to run a sub 3, and I completely bonked and
I was coaching
failed.
a guy that did that race.
I know, I
He
remember
blew up too.
I met him there. It was an awful day.
It was so hot.
It was terrible, but,
I think windy too,
uh, it
because it's a
was
coastal race, right?
yeah, it was just an all around just brutal day. But, um, so you did a couple different races, you did a couple ultras, you did some road racing. How did you go about staying healthy throughout the whole year and, like, going from activating your slow twitch muscles and you running, 50 miles, like a 100K to also running some, 252 at Boston and a 244 at Chicago?
Yeah, good question. I feel like a lot of it has to do with just I've been running for like 5 years, sort of consistently. So I started in like 2018. Uh, and the majority of my training over the last 5 years has just been like a lot of really slow, easy miles. So I feel like my legs are just so used to the running, like the slow running and just being on my feet for a while. So I find the ultras are pretty easy to train for because like going like logging like, leading up to that 100K, I think I hit, like, 78 miles for, like, my peak week, but it was all easy miles, no speed work, 78 miles of just zone 2, and it felt so easy because I think just, I think the number 1 factor for running fitness is just time spent running. It's like anything else, really, like, the more time you spend doing it, the better you're gonna get at it, and so I think just over the last 5 years, spending so much time running easy and just allowing my body to really adapt. Like I even just 2 years ago, I couldn't have ran 78 miles in a week. Like I'd be totally wrecked. But I think that coupled with the like just intentionality of everything and like really easing into everything. Because the first 2 years of running, I had no clue what I was doing. Like I was always hurt. Like I had shin splints. I had like runner's knee in both knees. I had like Achilles things. I was just always injured and had something going on because I was just going way too hard all the time. Like at my very first race I did was like a 43-mile race in the mountains, which was just stupid because I didn't have any endurance, like no build up into it. So I got hurt during that, and that one taught me the lesson of like, okay, if I want to keep running and enjoy it, like I gotta just chill and like ease into it more. So I think you could look at like again, this like 178-mile week, and I use that as an example because that's the most I've ever done in a week, training wise. You could look at that 1 week and think like, "Oh, this guy's crazy fit," but it was also like the 5 years leading up to that. Like I wasn't just, born to be able to go run 78 miles in a week. I had to ease into this over the last few years. So I think that's a big part of it. I think the strength training is huge too. Like once I started implementing consistent strength training, like really intentional strength training, like the single leg stuff specifically, that's where I noticed like I don't even get sore anymore. And I think a lot of it's the strength training. And just movement. Like I always say, motion is lotion. Because like even this morning, I woke up and like I was a little tight. Like I ran like 12 miles yesterday, like 9 of which were speed miles. As I was a little tight this morning, and then I took the dogs for a walk. And like 5 minutes into the walk, I felt fine because of just that movement and the blood flow, and like you get all the joint fluid moving and everything. So I think constantly kind of moving and doing something with the slow, easy miles, with the strength training, with the just really intentional build up. I'd say those are kind of the biggest things that has allowed me to get to now where I can go do like in October I did the 244 marathon. Like 6 weeks later I did the 100K parking lot ultra and then uh 3 weeks after that I did the sub 5 mile and the deadlift. So I think just being able to bounce between all those different things is just kind of a culmination of those things I just said.
What does a day in the life look like for you?
Hmm. Honestly, I remember when I asked you that on my podcast, you were like, "It's a different every day." Mine's basically the same every day. Such a boring schedule. So I usually wake up around like 6 or 6:30. I try to kind of get up with the sun if I can.
Mhm.
So like lately, I guess the sun doesn't come up till like 7 or so. So I've been sleeping a little bit longer. Um, so like somewhere between 6 and 7 typically. And then I will immediately go on a run with the dogs. Like, I'll do the first usually, like, 3 or 4 miles with them, and then I'll bring them back home, drop them off, finish my miles. That kinda just depends on what I'm training for in terms of the volume. Typically, like this last year, I think I averaged, like, 6.5 miles a day or something like that for the yearly total, so usually around 5 or 6 miles, and then, come back home, shower, work for a few hours. I intermittent fast until about noon every day. Uh,
Oh, so you run and then you won't have anything
yeah,
after.
unless it's a speed day. If it's a speed day, which is once a week, then I'll eat something before, or usually just like some liquid calories. But yeah, I usually don't consume any calories until like noon generally. And I actually learned, I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but I did my VO2 max test last weekend. And all the way up to my VO2 max, the peak, like till I had to tap out, I was still using fat, which they said is like not common at all because you at some point you typically switch over to pure carb burn. But even then, my body was still using like 10% fat at my absolute max, and I think it has something to do with running so many miles fasted
Mm.
and doing so much training in a fasted state. I don't. That's my bro science. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think there's something to that. So I don't usually eat till noon. Uh, do I know my meal?
I do wanna know your meal.
Okay.
Actually, before you share your meal though, have do you feel like you're able to recover from, like, running 5 or 6 easy miles at 7 in the morning and then not eating anything for, like, 3, 4 hours after?
It used to be really hard.
Mm,
Now I don't even really think about it. It used to be challenging to go work out on an empty stomach. But I think just over time you
mhm.
just get used to it, and your body. Because I used to probably be mostly carb burning, like
Yeah.
most people are, because they don't fast or they eat a really high carb diet. But I think if you're intentional with that and you eat a lot of fats, like I think that most of my calories, I don't track it all, but I think most of them come from fats because I eat so much like fatty steak and beef, a lot of raw milk, that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of fats. I think that probably helps. And just getting your body used to like just being fat adapted,
Sure.
basically. But yeah, so breakfast at noon is usually like 8 ounces of ground beef, 4 eggs, like a big bowl of fruit, like berries, a glass of milk, um, some like sourdough toast. Bree's been making sourdough. Dude, it's so good. Homemade sourdough
Sourdough's
slaps.
so good.
So that's usually breakfast. It's like a pretty big meal typically. And then I'll work a couple more hours in the afternoon, do some calls and stuff. And then at like 3, I'll have a smoothie, like a protein and fruit smoothie. And then I'll lift usually around like 4 o'clock. I just have the home gym, which is nice, super convenient. I always plunge before I lift.
Mm.
That's crucial. Plunge before you lift.
Plunge before you lift.
And then after that, eat dinner like 6 or 7. Hang out with Bree. That's pretty much the same thing every day. Very boring.
Yeah, but I there's something to be said about that because
Yeah.
just being friends with you and seeing all that you've been able to build over the past couple of years, you've had that consistency and you've had that schedule, and so you're not being distracted by other things that are pulling you away from the things that you've been able to build. So people might say, "Oh, like, how has Jeremy done this? How has Jeremy done that?" You just said it. It's consistency. It's the
Yeah.
same thing every day.
Yeah. And it's there's definitely something to it. Because if you're constantly like having, I mean, people are different. Different schedules work for different people, but I need like some structure routine. Obviously, it's like I do the same thing every day, and so I know roughly from like 8 or 9 a.m. till like noon, I've got 3 or 4 hours to get some work done, edit a video, have some calls, send emails, whatever it is, and I've got another 2 or 3 hour window in the afternoon. So it's like I know those are my windows each day to get stuff done. Outside of that, I'm either running or lifting or hanging out with Bree or eating. So I'm definitely more introverted, I think, which probably helps because I don't feel like I need to go out and like constantly be around people. I do like to do that because there's definitely value for that. I use cool down a lot for that. It's like
Mhm.
the group run we have every Wednesday. I lead that, and it's like every week I meet somebody new or I talk to somebody new, which is so cool. And being able to get that social fix. But yeah, being more introverted, I think definitely helps because again, I know some people like crave being around other people, and I just don't get that necessarily. So I'm fortunate for that. 'Cause I know I see, like, so many people, like, get together every day with a group of people, and they're working out, they're running, doing stuff with people, and I'm envious of that because it seems like so much fun, but when I do that, I feel like I get out of my routine, and I'm not as productive in certain things because 'cause I'm, like, distracted almost, so
Mhm.
there's pros and cons to it, I think, just like everything else, and I like doing, like, Saturdays, I'll try and link up with people, go for a long run occasionally, so get a good social fix there, and on the weekends, I'm definitely more lenient, like, my Saturdays and Sundays are usually a lot different than the Monday through Friday, so I still work, like, 7 days a week to some extent, but, just give myself more forgiveness on the weekends to not feel like I have to get stuff done.
Mm. Yeah, give yourself some grace, man.
Yeah.
Give yourself some grace. Heading into 2024, I saw you put out your race schedule, a couple things that you wanna
It's too
do.
much.
How did you even come about that? Like, how much time and effort did you put into, like, what races you're gonna
Oh,
run?
not enough thought because it's probably too much. So the first race is, it's the Orlando 5K. I'm doing, like, a thing with Brooks for that, so
Cool,
then they're, like, taking a bunch of creators out there because it's the same weekend as the marathon Olympic trials.
cool.
I don't know why they want people like me there because, like, I'm not racing in the trials, so I don't know, but
It's
going out there,
because you have an audience and
I guess.
people are gonna show up.
I guess. We'll see what happens. So I'm gonna try and race I've never full on raced a 5K, so I'm excited for that. I'm gonna race that. That's in like a month. In February,
What are you trying to run?
sub 17 minutes.
Okay, so that's
It's like 5:25 pace.
I think you got that.
I think I could do
I
it.
think you could do
We'll
that.
see. um, and then March, I might do the Austin half in February too.
Mhm.
I don't know yet. Maybe just for fun. Um, March, I've got a 50-mile mountain race in Arizona, and that's more of like a tune-up race or like an excuse to like go spend some time in the mountains. Because I'm doing my first 100-mile race in June at the Bighorn 100, and it's a very very mountainous race, and obviously there's no mountains in Austin, so I need to spend some time in the mountains just kind of getting used to that. So that's in Arizona. It's the like Mesquite Canyon 50 miler or something, and then April is busy. I'm pacing, Pierce
Yeah,
Shao?
of course.
Yeah, I'm, pacing him to run a sub 3 at the Jersey City Marathon. Um, that'll be fun, and then the next weekend is the London Marathon, and then the following weekend, maybe there's 2 weeks in between. I think there's 2 weeks. It's on May 5th is the, OC Marathon out in California. So, London and OC will just be for fun, just
Mhm.
to, like, go complete it, and then in June will be the Bighorn 100. So the first like 6 months are pretty busy, but I'm kind of thinking of all of those different races and efforts as just training for Bighorns. Like the main focus is Bighorn just because it's going to be so hard.
Mhm.
And so I want to make sure I'm prepped and get plenty of miles in for that. I've done the 50 miler there twice and it is a brutal course. It's so hard. Uh, so doing 100, I sometimes I just try to not think about it because I know it's gonna suck. Definitely more so mentally than anything. But yeah, and then I'm doing the New York Marathon in November. So the registration for that opens in March, and I have the time qualification for that, which is cool. So I'll do New York, and then I'm thinking about an Ironman. I don't know why.
A full?
Yeah,
Whoa.
dude, I don't know. I'm so bad at swimming.
That's what everybody says, man,
I'm so bad. I sink like a rock, literally. Like, Bree and I were in these salt pools in Chicago after the marathon,
Yeah.
and it was supposed to be not quite like a float tank, but there's apparently, like, a ton of salt in these pools to, like, help you float,
Mhm.
and Bree would just float, no problem. Like, she'd just lay there and float. My body doesn't float. Like, I would just sink, and I don't maybe I'm just a bad swimmer or something, and that's my excuse, but I think there's something going on where I just can't float.
I mean, that'd be cool. I mean, that's a challenge, that's,
That's
like
kinda why I wanna do it, 'cause
it's something that's completely outside your comfort zone.
yeah, that's what is intriguing about it, Cause I mean, I could keep getting faster in the marathon. I know how to run marathons. I know how to run faster and what that looks like, so it doesn't, like, scare me as much. The 100 miler is definitely a little scary because 'cause I've never done that, but anything in uncharted territory is scary, and so I was thinking, like, what's some kind of fitness endeavor that is just way out of my comfort zone, and that's definitely an Ironman, so that's the main reasoning for that. Maybe High Rocks. I've
Mm.
heard High Rocks is fun.
Yeah, I'm thinking about doing a high rocks later in the year once I
Yeah.
health progresses a little
Yeah.
bit, and I'm back in the gym doing that. But yeah, high rocks. I'm so much more of like a power, like high intensity stuff. I actually did a genetics test, which I actually have like the genes for like power and high
Oh, that's cool.
intensity and not endurance, which is
Interesting.
really interesting. And
What kind of test is that?
they test your genetics, so it's I did 2 of these actually. So I did one last year and I got the same result. It was like, "Oh yeah, your genetics are primed for like high intensity
Interesting.
strength power, lower on the endurance scale. It takes it longer to recover from endurance, it takes longer to like adapt to it." And that was with a company called Wild Health, and then I did one with a company called 3x4 Genetics. Same thing. So it was interesting to see that.
I wanna do that. I'm really curious.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I'll send you some of the info for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I'd be curious what mine would say. I feel like something with High Rocks I could be decent at
Mhm.
because it requires a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Like, you
You
need
gotta be able to run.
yeah, it seems like kinda more endurance based,
Mhm.
because it's similar to what, like a half marathon almost? Like, it's
Y
like an hour, hour
you
and a
run like
half.
you run like an 8K total, but then you also have like 1,000-meter ski, 1,000-meter row,
Yeah.
um,
Cardio.
cardio like burpee broad jumps and
Mm.
all that good stuff.
Yeah, that seems interesting. There's a what is the other one? Is it like Spartan or Tough
There's
Mudder or
there's
something?
Spartan races, yeah.
Yeah, those seem
Those
kinda interesting
they
too.
do, they seem really cool. The founder, Joe DeSena, is a
Oh, yeah.
yeah, he's a savage.
Yeah, I wanna do all those eventually.
Mm,
Um, yeah, I also feel like I don't wanna just do everything with, like, so quickly and then
mhm,
just, like, move on because I kinda wanna space it out a little bit of like,
sure,
"Okay, this year I wanna focus on this, next year I'll do that."
sure.
I mean, because you could go do all those in a year,
Mhm,
but then it's like, I don't know. I feel like I like spacing things out just a
yeah,
little bit.
totally.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you mentioned a lot of different things. Outside of the realm of athletics, what is one thing that you are stoked about going into 2024?
That's a good question. Asking the hard-hitting questions here.
Going deep.
One thing I'm stoked about, I think there's a lot. I think one of the biggest things, because I'm not really like racing a lot of these races, is just going to these events and being able to like connect with people. Like, so most of the races I do, I'll try and host some kind of shakeout run or group run before, and I did it before Chicago, and it was really exhausting because I had to race the next day,
Mhm,
and I feel like if I'm gonna race another marathon or something like that, I don't know if I want to do a shakeout before because it was just so like mentally exhausting. Um, so I'm excited for these, not to run them necessarily. That'll be fun too, but like being able to just meet with people and like connect with different people at these
yeah,
races. Because for me, the in-person connections with like your online audience, I don't think there's anything cooler than that. Like being able to meet those people in person is so much fun, and just so fulfilling because it's like when you see numbers on a screen or you see somebody comment, like you look at their username, you look at their profile, like yeah, they're a real person, but it's just not the same. Whereas if you meet somebody in person, you have that like in person connection and that energy with them, and like, hey, I'm Jim. What's going on? Like, your marathon program helped me PR my race a couple months ago or whatever. It's like that's so fulfilling to
mhm,
like meet somebody in person. So, looking forward to that. And kind of with that, with Switchback, we have plans for like a lot of in person events and different things like that. So, I think more than anything, just the in person connections with people. Because I up until this year, I didn't really get a lot of that,
mm.
because I didn't, like, put myself out there as much, and so now having that opportunity to go out and meet more people and do things like that, very excited for that.
I love it. I'm curious to go back and hear what you said the first time, but
From our first episode?
from our first episode that you were on,
Oh gosh.
but you know that I ask all my guests what pure ambition means to them and how it applies to their daily life. So for you, January 4th, 2023, what does pure ambition mean to you? How does it apply to your daily life?
Pure ambition. When I was driving over here, I was actually gonna ask you where the name Pure Ambition came from. I'll ask you that after this. Pure ambition. I think, I'm very curious to know what my first answer was. I think I don't know what I think. Again with the questions, the hard-hitting questions. Um, when I think of ambition, I think of, like, purpose and fulfillment and finding that thing that fires you up, like something that if you're laying in bed in the morning at 5 a.m. and you don't want to get out of bed, like what's that thing that's going to get you to spring out of bed and be like,
Mm.
oh, I'm excited about this. I want to start working on this and spend my time on it. Or what is that thing that you can get lost in the flow state? Like for me, a lot of it's content or
Yeah.
like a run or a workout or something like where you're nowhere else except for in that present moment. I think it's all about finding that thing that does that for you. And
Mm.
it's so different for everybody else. So yeah, pure ambition.
Pure ambition, baby.
Let's hear your answer.
Oh,
Well, first off, where did the name come from? And then I want to hear your answer.
so the name comes from it used to be called Days with Dom podcast, actually, when I first started. It was
Sounds like a reality
awful.
TV
Yeah,
show.
that's what I'm saying. I made the graphics for myself on Canva. Like,
Nice.
it was an excuse. It was like I beat the resistance of like starting because like, okay, this is the first name that comes to mind.
That's
I'm just gonna
important.
do it. But I always knew that I wanted to like rebrand it, but I didn't know I was just gonna let the name come organically. And then I was out shoveling snow in 2021, early 2021, while I was taking a gap semester from college, and I I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast with Kevin Hart, and Joe asked Kevin, he was like, "Dude, like you're doing all these things, like you bounce from movie to business, doing all these things. How do you do it?" And he's just like, "I just have this like relentless ambition." And I like literally just like it hit me. Like I just like stood up. I stopped shoveling for a second. I was like, ambition. I was like, that's good. And so I knew that like the podcast was going to be something with ambition because I kind of just took that word and embodied it for the rest of that year as I was going to train for football and start my personal training and nutrition coaching business. Like I was just like ambition, ambition, ambition. That was always a word I was coming back to. And then pure, the word pure came to me. Like I don't know where it came from, but I just put two and two together, and like ambition is your pursuit or your desire to do something, to create an impact, to achieve something, and pure is your own unique definition to it. It's something that is only relevant to you, and so pure ambition to me is a relentless pursuit of the best version of yourself with the intention to pour back into making society a better place for all to thrive.
I like that.
Yeah.
Do you I liked how you thought of that while you were shoveling snow too. The first thing I thought of when you said that is like first I thought you were gonna say you thought of it when you're out on a run because that's where some of my best ideas come
Yeah.
from. But have you ever
I
had
wasn't running. I didn't run until I wasn't a runner until then.
have you ever had like a really good idea when you're like scrolling through Instagram?
Yes.
Oh, you have? Okay.
I
Damn,
have.
I was gonna say some against that.
But it's like not like I have, but not in it's not it's like kind of like a hit of like, oh, like
Maybe a piece of inspiration.
something
or
that it's all it's
something.
a hit of inspiration, but it's not like I've never had that like this is it moment. Like the other
Yeah.
night I put a post on my story. I was in the shower and I had like a breakthrough of like what like
Oh, I saw that.
yeah, I was like what pure ambition like podcast like is like a new I've been thinking about just like rewording it, reframing it, and I literally like had it's hit of inspiration in the shower at like 10
Dude,
p.m.
shower thoughts.
Shower is crazy. And it was like 10 p.m. in the shower. I literally like shut off the nozzle, like quarter dried my way off and like leaked all the way into my room and took out my iPad and started writing what
You
it
know why I
was.
think shower thoughts are so powerful? And it seems like it is for everybody, is because like you don't have any distractions. Like you're not like
Yeah.
it's such a like subconscious thing.
Yeah.
Like you don't ever really think about, okay, what shampoo am I gonna
Yeah.
use? And how do I pour it? Like it's
Right.
such a
You surrender to the moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like what's the
It's like being on an airplane.
yeah.
You have nothing else but to just surrender.
Right. Yeah, there's no other stimulus or
Mhm.
anything. Like
Exactly.
you're forced to be present.
Yep.
And that's where like it's almost like a meditation in a weird way.
Mhm.
Where that's why like running is so good for just thinking. Or any like even strength training or something. Strength training's I think did we talk about this on my podcast? Might have been with somebody else. But strength training, I feel like you don't get quite as much.
Yeah.
Actually, because you have to think more. You have to
Focus.
count reps and your
My
form
muscle
and stuff.
connection and all that.
But with running, it's such a repetitive thing. Like
Mhm.
you just turn your brain off and you can think about other things and be like a little bit. You can think about other things, but also be present at the same time.
Yeah.
Like it's just a space to think. I think.
Well, brother, thank you for everything today. I'm looking forward to just kind of making this a somewhat regular thing. I
dude.
just love chopping it up with you and hearing all the things that are going on in your life. But
Same to you.
Thank you, brother. If anybody wants to check out more of your content, connect with you, support you in your businesses, what's the best way for them to do that?
Instagram's probably the best place to connect. It's Jeremy Miller with a dot between the E and the R on Miller. I've tried so many times to get just Jeremy Miller, and this guy wants like 50 grand for it. So until we're just balling, we're stuck with the dot. But if you just search up Jeremy Miller, it's I think I'm the top account. So there's that podcast, Jeremy Miller podcast, a couple episodes with Dom, yours truly on there. Switchback, if you need hydration, electrolytes, you can check that out. YouTube, doing a lot more long form YouTube content lately, which has been fun. Just Jeremy Miller on YouTube and TikTok, if you're into that kind of thing. Jeremy Miller on TikTok. And then my website, jeremymiller.io. I've got like training plans on there, training app, all kinds of different things on there. So some merch. Yeah.
It's good merch. He's got the hat on right now.
The hat.
Looking good.
This is a 1 of 1. I haven't sold these yet.
Ooh.
Considering it.
Those are sweet. I'd buy one.
We're considering it. I got to sell Brock on it.
Come on, Brock.
Brock's a hard sell.
I feel like he's not really like a hat guy.
He likes hats. I think he's just picky. I don't know. I'm the guy. I like the like golden retriever of the business, and he's like the I don't know. I haven't thought of a good analogy for him.
Yeah.
He's the realist.
Okay.
And I just want to do everything fun and exciting and just give all of our electrolytes away for free to everybody. He's like, no, we have to make money, right? I'm
like, oh yeah.
But people need hydration. Well, they could pay for them, I guess.
Well,
okay.
It's good.
Yeah.
You're coming from a good place. All right, dude. Thank you. Appreciate you. Look forward to seeing all that you're going to accomplish soon.
Thanks, dude. Thanks for having me on. This is fun.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode. I wanted to give you all a heads up too that I launched a free community on the Upspace app where you can join, ask me questions, connect with like-minded individuals, follow my 4-week running and strength training program that has some dedicated mobility sessions in there as well, so that we can all optimize our health and fitness together. So if you're interested, head over to the App Store, download the Upspace app, and join the Pure Ambition community today. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.